Tomorrow kicks off the official start to the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. I've got all the details you need to know and a wet stretch of weather developing for many of us. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with you at Meteo Mundo. Good to see you on this Friday afternoon. Coming up in the video, we've got the newest information on what's happening here with this disturbance in the Southwest Caribbean. We're just talking about a lot of tropical moisture that's going to be bringing a wide swath of rain to many of you over the next several days. The official start to the hurricane season is tomorrow. I've got a lot of details to go over with that. And of course, we'll look at the extended forecast as we get into next week and where that heavy rain is going. As always, love to hear from you guys here at Meteo Mundo. Drop into the comments section below where you're viewing from and what the weather has been like. And while you're down there, do me a big favor and hit that like button right now. So we'll start with what's going on in the Southwest Caribbean as we have the last couple of videos. And again, another blow up of thunderstorms on this Friday afternoon. The numbers that you see, that's your heat index. That's your feels like temperature in your area, which for many is disgustingly high. Again, when we're not getting the rain, our feels like temperatures are well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But again, another blow up of storms in the Southwest Caribbean. Now, as they've moved north, they do encounter more wind shear. And again, this is not going to be a tropical disturbance, but there is rich, abundant tropical moisture, and this plume of moisture is going to be spreading. It's going to be getting more elongated, and it's going to bring some heavy rain to a lot of folks. Now, again, it's great to see more rain in coastal Nicaragua and Honduras for today as we go a little bit farther north and west. And again, we're still not getting a lot of rain deeper into Honduras, deeper into Guatemala, Belize, and the Yucatan. Now, earlier today, there were a few weak showers in southern Belize. But again, this is not going to help out the fire threat. It's not going to help out the dangerous heat, at least as of now. We're thinking of our friends in Belize. It again feels like temperatures there approaching 110. We have a lot of folks who watch us in Belize. Again, drop into the comments section below. Let me know what's going on with your area for today. Appreciate you guys keeping us up to date. And again, our thoughts are with you guys. Still relatively dry air, but you can just see a little bit of that green slipping through. There are signs again that we're knocking down that high, and we're going to try and get you guys a little bit better chance for rain later next week. But again, in the short term, the heat continues in that area. Let's go over to Jamaica first right now. And again, I'm going to put on the feels like numbers here. And again, when it's not raining, we're getting feels like temperatures above 100 degrees. Now, it's interesting, my friends, in Jamaica, the northwest side of the island has seen the abundance of the rain the last couple of afternoons. The southeast side towards Kingston, it has been drier. But you guys are right in the heart of that moisture plume, and the rain chances are only going to be going up the next couple of days. So we're going to see passing showers, an isolated storm for today. Right now, we're still favoring Westmoreland and Hanover parishes there, on over towards Trelawney. Basically, the western side, Savannah, Lamar, Negril, Montego Bay, Mandeville, Maypen, an isolated shower possible. And look, we could still get some showers to develop over the Kingston area, just haven't quite yet. It's a little bit breezy on the southern side of the island as well. And again, there's a lot more moisture still to move into the area. Good to see some rain over portions of the Cayman Islands. Look, Georgetown, your feels like number was 111 before we had a quick moving shower move across Grand Cayman. Again, not everyone is going to get the rain, and the abundance of moisture is not as thick here, but again, you're right on that edge. And I'm cautiously optimistic you will at least have some rain chances in the Cayman Islands the next couple of afternoons. I'll have more on that coming up as well. On over to Hispaniola. And again, we're seeing a few showers develop across the island right now. Feels like temperatures where it's not raining have been well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, 100 degrees Fahrenheit is around 38 degrees Celsius. 110 is about 43.3 degrees Celsius. So these are very, very hot conditions. We've had a couple of showers developed today, some near Punta Cana, some south of La Romana, but again, pretty isolated in nature so far. But Hispaniola is another area it's going to get wetter out there. We're seeing a big blowup of storms coming off the eastern coastline of Cuba that will be headed towards the Cayman Islands. We've had a few storms develop in the far southeast side of the Bahamas, and that's really where that moisture-laden air is getting going. You see how far north and east that has already expanded. Now, for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands, at this point in time, it's been a drier day. And by the way, there's a heat advisory for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands because of this heat. And again, it's pretty outrageous outside. We've had one little blow-up of storms today, developed in the Isabela Aguadilla area, dropped off towards the south and to the east. And again, nice to cool things down. Certainly not enough to cause any big flooding issues, nothing like that. But again, when it is not raining, these feels like numbers in San Juan are above 100. Christiansted there, St. Croix around 105. And again, it's been relatively dry. St. Thomas, St. John, on over towards Tortola and the Road Town areas. For our friends in the northeast side of the of the Leeward Islands, going to throw on those current feels like temperatures as well. Anguilla, St. Martin, 107, 108. Ugh. Look, it's been relatively dry. I promise you that our enhanced satellite imagery is actually running right now. I'll bring on the visible satellite imagery. We can see just a few low-level clouds out there. Look, it's been a relatively sunny, dry, very hot day across the Leeward Islands. We've seen some Saharan dust come back into this area as well. So more than likely there's some haze throughout the islands. And I'm just going down the islands right now. We're going to see a lot of us, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados. Most areas were able to go above 100 for feels like temperature, at least at some point in time for today. After some good showers in Trinidad and Tobago, we're beginning to dry out. Still can't rule out a couple of showers down in this area, but the moisture-laden area has now dropped off either to the south or generally off towards the west. That tropical wave is moving off towards the west. And again, right now, what that means is we're going to try and get a couple of showers in the ABC Islands, but again, it's not raining yet, and feels like numbers there are at or above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, an isolated storm, especially towards Aruba, could be trying to develop. You can see our live lightning strike counter as well. Again, friends, I'm using all the technology here at Meteo Mundo. These are live lightning data for you, live satellite. That's why I spend a lot of time on current conditions, because we can here. We can show you what's happening in your area right now, and then we get into the forecast. You can see a few storms really getting going in the southeast Bahamas. I've seen a couple of showers there in the southern sides of Andros and then places like Exuma, maybe trying to sneak over towards Cat Island and Long Island, but it's really southeast sides of the Bahamas. And again, this does extend up. At this point in time, Bermuda is dry, but there's a few storms sneaking just off towards your east. So that is a look at what is happening right now. Before we get into the forecast, we have to talk about the fact that hurricane season officially kicks off for tomorrow. So I want to pass on some information. Obviously, I've mentioned this a lot, but we are getting into a La Nina pattern. El Nino is gone. La Nina looks to strengthen. We are really seeing that signal now of the cooler waters off the west coast of South America. And again, as that cools, ocean currents that are global, guys, this is going to have an impact on the Caribbean, the Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico. Typically speaking, in a La Nina, you get less wind shear. And less wind shear typically leads to more tropical activity because the storms that develop, they're not ripped apart by the strong upper level winds as often, and they can just basically last. They can be more prolonged. They can be more numerous in nature. Another ingredient in this soup, if you will, of why I expect us to have a very active hurricane season is that our sea surface temperatures are outrageously high. So this is not a look at what the current temperatures are. This is a look at how anomalously warm they are. And basically, well, first of all of the Gulf of Mexico, all of the far western Atlantic, and all of the Caribbean, your sea surface temperatures are running above average. Many of you are running around 2 degrees Celsius above average, but there are some spots that are 3.5 degrees Celsius above average. The Bahamas, a lot there off of the west coast of Florida, and a couple of other spots as well. But again, very, very hot sea surface temperatures. And it's not just the sea surface temperatures, the quality, if you will, of that warm water at depth is also significant as well. So let's talk about the 2024 seasonal forecast. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has given their official forecast for this year. It's above average. 17 to 25 named storms, 8 to 13 hurricanes, 4 to 7 of those major hurricanes. That's Category 3 or higher. That's the official forecast for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. There are many other reputable sources that I look at here. And so when we talk about the high end, what I mean is that the sources that I trust that talk about a very, very active season, what's the highest end that we could actually see? Okay, that's 25 to 30 named storms, 14 to 16 hurricanes, and 6 to 8 of those becoming major. Again, Category 3 or higher. But almost every source you're going to find has an above average hurricane season, and in some areas, multiples of an above average hurricane season. There's also something we call accumulated cyclone energy. It's ACE, okay? That's a nice tidy number that allows us to compare season by season by looking at one number. It takes into account how many storms there are, how strong they became, and how long they last. And that accumulated cyclone energy is forecast to be 2 to 3 times above average through the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. It's just another indication that this season is more than likely going to be very, very active. Now, it's great to see that we haven't had the first named storm as of yet, but there are signals that starting late next week, and especially the second week of June, we start to see some of those factors come into play more, where there is the possibility of getting more tropical disturbances over the next 7 to 14 days. Now, we still have this area in the Pacific to monitor, but it's a weak chance as it moves off towards the west. So for now, again, all is quiet, but we have 4 tropical waves, right? The 2 in the Caribbean, still watching this one, right? And then we're still watching one a little bit farther off towards the east. And the fact that we have these tropical waves in the Atlantic this time of the year is somewhat unheard of. This is normally a later season pattern for us here. Now, we still have these equatorial region that's very active, and we got to get these storms to go north of the ITCZ, the Intertropical Convergence Zone. But again, just to have some of this activity developing already is certainly earlier than what we normally see. So what's going to happen in the Caribbean? How is this going to play out to bring us this very wet forecast that I talked about here? Well, let's look at the GFS model over the next 5 days, then we'll look at the NAM model. First thing to indicate is I want you to notice how expansive this rain out of the Southwest Caribbean becomes over the next few days, how wide of a shield of rain it's going to be. Again, we're not talking about developing in anything tropical. There could be some broad spin that could bring in some very blustery conditions, some heavy tropical downpours. But as far as any development, again, if that were to happen, that's going to be north and east of the Turks and Caicos and the Greater Antilles in general as it moves here. But more than likely, it's going to be more linear in nature. But very wet forecast indeed. So looking at what's going to be happening here for the Cayman Islands and then Jamaica. Scattered showers likely over the Cayman Islands. You're not going to be in that richest moisture plume, but you're close enough to get some decent downpours over the weekend, a few isolated storms in nature. Again, I mentioned Jamaica, and I said, look, if you haven't gotten the rain yet, I know it's hot. I know you got to deal with that, but I'm not concerned because as we get into tomorrow, look how wet it's going to become, guys. I mean, we've got rain covering up the island through the day tomorrow. As we get into Saturday, a redevelopment of widespread showers and storms. Monday, fairly good rain, and even on Tuesday, a few showers left over. Beginning on Tuesday is when we start to dry out again. But tomorrow through Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, very wet for Jamaica, Kingston included in that. For Hispaniola, again, scattered showers today. It gets pretty wet tomorrow. It gets very wet Sunday and into Monday. What I mean that is widespread heavier rain, a few embedded storms. I'll be monitoring very closely any opportunity for flooding. At this point in time, that's a possibility, but there are no official statements regarding any flood potential as of yet, but that's something I'll be monitoring very closely over the weekend. This is a huge slug of tropical moisture coming through, so the showers will be very numerous. There'll be a very wide swath, and they could be locally heavy as well. Same thing for our friends in the Turks and the Caicos. Kind of scattered. You're getting some storms again today off of eastern Cuba, but again, it's just a wet period here, guys, where the rain stays very prominent in these areas for several days to come. So we'll be looking at your rainfall potential coming up, your totals, and I've got the island by island outlook as well. So on over towards the U.S., British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Again, it's been a little bit drier over the last couple of afternoons. Now look, still for tomorrow, the rain is going to be scattered at best, which means feels like temperatures are still going to be above 100. As we get into our Sunday, now that moisture field begins to move over. Now, Monday, Tuesday look to be the wettest time frame for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands as that moisture kind of elongates itself from west to east. That, but again, wetter weather moving in for these areas beginning early next week. So scattered over the weekend, more numerous in nature Monday and Tuesday. For the Leeward Islands, again, same situation. You will probably have a little bit lower chance for rain than Puerto Rico, but still your best opportunity comes on Monday and Tuesday. And again, there is some haze in this area with the Saharan dust layer, so we could use a few downpours to help that out as well. Anguilla, St. Bartholomew, Ceiba, St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbuda, Antigua, about a 20% chance for rain over the weekend, and then those rain chances go higher. At this point in time, scattered enough where I'm not as concerned about any, flood advisories here, but that's something to monitor because again, these downpours are going to be fairly significant. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, scattered rain will continue for you, but again, not as concentrated. There is some moisture also from the south to play with here, so we are going to get some rain to move back into Barbados, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago. It's still going to be pretty spotty in nature, but there will be some tropical downpours coming in from you. And again, it's not so much what's happening to your north and west, it's getting some more moisture coming in from the western Atlantic. It's not going to be as concentrated. Now, deeper into the forecast, again, later next week, we'll talk much more about that next tropical wave coming in. But right now, we're in between those systems. For the ABC Islands, it's a relatively drier forecast. I'm sorry about that, guys. I zoomed in way too close. For the ABC Islands, again, it's a few showers coming off the mainland, but the moisture axis is off towards your west and bending around. Now, we've mentioned, again, what's happening here in Central America. We still have to break down this ridge of high pressure. So it's mainly coastal Nicaragua, Honduras, obviously Costa Rica and Panama as well. For our friends in Belize, if I go to the very last couple of shots here, you can see that we're trying to get a little bit more rain here, and I'll show you the extended forecast where, again, from the south, we break down that ridge and at least try and get a few showers in here. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It doesn't look like a lot of rain over the next 5 days for sure, but maybe starting at day 6 through day 10, at least the opportunity for a few more showers. It's better than Cancun and Cozumel that continue to just scorch and stay relatively dry. It's going to get interesting for my friends in the Bahamas. All right, we're going to start to see this moisture come up from the south into the east. So again, you've had, decent days here, but again, especially southeast, central Bahamas, you're going to get a good slug of that moisture coming in for us here, and scattered showers will be abound. Now look, first of all, there'll be some small craft advisories potentially over the weekend for even the northwest Bahamas. We're going to have a pretty brisk northeast wind. I mentioned that again, and it's a little unusual for early June, but a northeast wind for places like Grand Bahama and New Providence and Eleuthera. And then scattered showers will be developing. Now, the highest concentration of that moisture, again, is off towards the central and the southeast Bahamas, but that could get close to places like Eleuthera and New Providence and Andros. Still more scattered up towards Freeport and Lucaya and the Walker's Key Bimini area, but that opportunity will be there. Now, on the GFS model, a lot of this moisture actually misses Bermuda off towards the south, okay? So still very windy conditions for Bermuda, but a lot of that gets elongated here, right along the southern extent of that mid-latitude cyclone and moves off. Let's look at the NAM model. There's a few discrepancies or differences that I want to point out. Generally speaking, the GFS model and the NAM model are in very good agreement with what's going to be happening, and I'll show you the European rainfall totals coming up. The only things that I want to point out here is that the NAM model actually makes this swath of rain, or shield of rain, if you will, even wider, okay? So potentially a little bit more rain for the Cayman Islands, potentially a little bit more rain for Puerto Rico, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and certainly for the northern side of the Leeward Islands. You can see it's a wetter forecast. I think that one thing that you could say that might negate that would be that Saharan dust layer, but that Saharan dust layer is not going to be able to overcome deeper tropical moisture. So for the NAM model, okay, we get that trough to really help to fire up additional showers and storms over Puerto Rico, the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands, and really anywhere from Martinique north, okay, including Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla areas like that. It might be slightly drier for the central and the northwest sides of the Bahamas out of this. More fast-moving showers. Bermuda gets a little bit wetter. Towards the end of that, you can start to see some of that rain lifts a little bit closer to the island, but not there. It's a possibility. But those are the major differences. There's not a lot, really. It's just that the NAM is actually a little bit wider with this swath of rain and just a little bit wetter overall. So let's look at your rain chance here over the next couple of days. Then we're going to take a look at the total rainfall totals as well. So for your areas, Jamaica, 40% chance for the rest of today, but it's an 80% chance Saturday and Sunday, still very high for Monday as well. Bahamas, it really is area dependent. Farther northwest, drier. Central southeast is wetter, but generally speaking, the rain chances go higher through the weekend. Turks and Caicos, again, scattered showers today, but much more numerous with some of those tropical downpours over the weekend. The Dominican Republic, again, scattered today, numerous over the weekend as well. Cayman Islands, again, we'll continue to see at least some passing downpours if nothing else. Belize City, an isolated shower possible, but nothing significant. Cancun and Cozumel will remain dry. Puerto Rico, 40 to 50% chance for rain. But again, for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, higher rain chances earlier next week is something I'll monitor. Scattered rain for St. Kitts and Nevis, and again, that's over the weekend, but higher rain chances there. Same thing for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now you get as far south as SVG, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think that these rain chances are going to improve much early next week. Again, you're too far south where that rich tropical moisture is, but at least there'll be some rain with your easterlies coming in and the ABC Islands as well. A very, very weak chance. Now, back over to the map here. I want to actually show you the wind vectors before we look at our total precip. And the reason why I want to do this, and as this is loading, if you haven't done it yet, I certainly appreciate if you could hit that like button right now. And if you've been looking for your latest forecasts across the Caribbean, the Bahamas, and of course the updates on the tropics, you found your home here at Meteo Mundo. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for supporting the channel as well. Many of you have done that in the ways that you can find the tip jar, the super thanks in the description as well. So thank you so much for that support. It's great to see our subscriber count and our view count going up. Really, really appreciate it. The reason why I wanted to show you this is the first signs of why we could see some tropical activity closer to home. Notice the next few days we have our strong easterly trade winds. By the end of this forecast period, as we get to the 5th and the 6th of June, you notice how these trade winds have weakened significantly. It's one of the first signs, again, that the shear will begin to relax in the Caribbean, all right? And almost a south wind there at the end. So much weaker trades, right? Maybe even not generally out of the east. So that's something to monitor here, the fact that we're going to start to change up our winds in the Caribbean and portions of the western Bahamas. So I wanted to highlight that. On over to the total precipitation over the next 5 days on the GFS model. First of all, if you've been watching these videos the last couple of days, I've shown you this every day, but I want you to notice now how wide this swath of heavier rain is. Okay, anything getting into the purples and the pinks and the whites is several inches of rain, all right? And we have a lot of that to talk about here. So again, unfortunately, our western areas mainly remain dry, but this is a huge swath of very deep tropical moisture coming into play here to kick off our June. And again, there's gonna be some spots where we could have, 5-10 inches of rain. Now again, for the Cayman Islands, it's great to see you guys get into that 3 to 4 inch potential rainfall total. Again, the model is now trying to paint on heavier rain for the Kingston area and then lighter rainfall totals out west. I believe for Jamaica, we're going to average 2 to 4 inches of rain or 50 to 100 millimeters of rain. I think that's certainly possible. Could there be some isolated flooding I'll be monitoring? Absolutely. Notice the GFS model just east of the island has a lot more rain. That then slams into portions of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Again, scattered higher rainfall totals. I think we're looking at 2 to 4 in a lot of spots. This model likes to paint on a lot of rain just offshore and then undercuts the rain as it moves onshore. But generally speaking, we can average this out. And again, I can place these numbers. That's no problem. We can, look at that and then say, okay, we're averaging maybe 2 to 3. But again, I think it's under it a little bit. We could say around 2 to 4. You can see the healthy rainfall totals into the southeast Bahamas. And again, you can see some of these spots there, Georgetown and Arthurstown. Notice that's a little bit drier for Nassau and Marsh Harbor and Freeport, but it's still some scattered, decent downpours here. Again, over the next 5 days, a few inches to several inches of rain in this area. There's Cockburntown and Matthewtown as well. I actually love this feature, just to be able to paint on these numbers. You get the idea. And again, we don't want to focus on one number, guys. We do want to average, and I'll show you the European models numbers coming up. But again, on the GFS here, and the biggest story to tell is just how wide this significant rain is, okay? Just how wide we are talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 plus inches of rain, all right? And then again, on the GFS model, we have decent rain for the Leeward Islands. It's not as significant, but again, we're going to get some downpours to help break the heat, right? Still favoring the eastern sides of the islands here for Dominica and Martinique and St. Lucia because of our trade winds, Barbados as well. And again, if you live in these areas, I love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you're seeing. We've had some decent rain lately in Trinidad and Tobago, but again, those areas will be slightly a little bit drier. But again, solid rainfall totals, right? Solid rainfall totals. Bermuda, again, you're just a little bit out of it right now. You're going to get a lot more wind than anything else over the next 5 to 7 days. European totals, again, they'll be a little bit more averaged, if you will, but what's the story, friends? Look at how wide of a swath our areas in red are. Red is 75 to at least 100, if not 125 millimeters. That's 3, 4, and 5 inches of rain. And that includes Jamaica, eastern Cuba, the Turks and the Caicos, a lot of Hispaniola, some of Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands as well, and then even getting richer moisture as you get off into the Atlantic, and again, portions of the Leeward Islands. And the great thing here with this one, and again, this is over the next 7 days, is we start to see a little bit of rain try and creep back into places like Belize and the Yucatan. I know it's not a lot, but it's the first sign that from the south, we're trying to get more moisture to move back into your area. Friends, it's great to see you. You can find us across all of social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, where we do some specialized videos there, X, Facebook. You have a picture or video, mymediamundo@gmail.com, any business interests as well. Great to see you guys. You have a great remainder of your Friday. You know I got you covered, and I'll see you soon right here at Media Mundo.